Cool. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the monthly AMA. Ask Max Anything, again live on YouTube. Welcome, Max.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, as every month was a really great last time. And I have to mention that today is the 7th day of the 7th month. It's Tanaba in Japan. And I hope that our Japanese community members celebrating this day today.
Cool. Before we start answering your questions, I would like to quickly go over some of our biggest achievements in the past month. So we had numerous development releases. We had a successful testnet migration just a few days ago. We also published in total 11 blog posts on the Lisk blog. We had the core version 3 benchmark blog post, which was very much appreciated by our community. We also introduced the Lisk community squad, core community members that are supporting us to make the Lisk community better. We also had, again, another research blog post and an AMA following the blog post, also part of the interoperability series. You can check it out on the Lisk blog. We also launched our own HackerNoon news page on the HackerNoon website, which is really great to see. They're a really great community they have. Our most efforts went into the Hack on Lisk, our online hackathon that is currently running on the DevPost platform. We have 2 more days until the submission deadline is over. We have already 280 participants registered, which is really great to see. So looking forward to seeing your submissions on Friday. So yeah, really exciting month. Hopefully you guys are aware with all our achievements, many more that I didn't mention, but yeah, super cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, small correction, it's Tanabata, this Japanese day of celebration. From all your achievements of our last month, I really think the testnet migration was the biggest one. I expect a few questions about that today. I really think our team did an amazing job there in making sure that all the products, which all somehow are linked into each other's, work correctly. And I mean, it's the testnet migration, and it is there to test if everything works. And I'm actually quite happy about the result. And it's good to see that actually we found some issues which we can fix now for the upcoming mainnet migration, which serves the purpose of the testnet migration. So I'm really happy about that, to see that principally everything really worked well. And we're currently in the last moments of fixing then these issues found in order to then move forward with the migration of the mainnet. And I think that made us all very happy. I actually checked the first research lib which was introduced in Lisk 3.0.0, which the testnet migrated to, stems from, I think, 2018, which Ika worked on. So we essentially worked 2018, 19, 20, and half of 21 on it. So it's like nearly 4 years of research and development. And I think it will change Lisk like forever, because it's essentially touching every piece of the protocol, from the address system to the fee system to the consensus algorithm, to the more lower level parts of the code. So I'm really excited to see that on the mainnet.
I should say also in the office during or just before the testnet migration, the entire team was extremely happy and proud. I've seen the developers, as you said, working already for many years on all these improvements. I think it's really nice and motivating to see. And again, many thanks to everyone that was involved in the testnet migration.
Yeah, and we were having a countdown, counting the blocks down to when the migration happened. So that was also pretty fun.
Yeah, not many people in the office, but still good feeling.
Yeah, still a few. And I really hope that the coming months, the whole COVID-19 situation improves so that more people can come to the office again. And as you see, This time from the other perspective. Last time the camera was facing that direction. This time we set it up to the stage so that you get familiar with how the Lisk Center Berlin stage looks like. And yeah, I really hope that soon we can then also open the Lisk Center Berlin. Would be amazing. Yeah, we actually already removed frosting or like milky foil from the windows so that everyone can look into. And the Lisk banner is up at the building, at the facade of the building, and everyone's looking into this amazing space we've built here. And actually, I got quite a few messages already from friends who've seen it. Our favorite bistro over there also have seen it, and they heard of Lisk already. So yeah, it's pretty cool, I would say. Serves its purpose.
Really nice to see people being curious and sneaking in through the window, indeed. But yeah, more news about this coming up soon. Cool, let's get started.
Yeah, did we talk enough that everyone could ask questions? Great.
Let's start with a general question, and that comes from Yure. Thank you for your question. So he's asking, has your view on blockchain changed over the past years? And if so, how?
I'd like to answer that from the standpoint of blockchain technology and the wider blockchain industry with its communities. So has it changed? Yeah, definitely. I think from a technology standpoint, we are so much more advanced to when I started getting involved in blockchain tech in 2012, towards when I was heavily involved with other projects in 2014, 15, 16, where I then founded Lisk. Back in the day when I really started, there was nothing for developers besides Bitcoin or forking Bitcoin to play around with. Then luckily, happily, Ethereum came along, which developer ecosystem rapidly grew. And its developer tooling also rapidly improved. Still a lot of work to be done there, but it's a totally different world to back then. And when we launched the Lisk SDK in 2019, I think it was, in 2019, there I think it was made another big improvement in general for developers to join this industry from a technology standpoint and getting involved. And then just when we launched the Lisk SDK as 2.0 and then worked towards now the latest release of 5.1, so many drastic improvements has been made on the protocol, but also on the developer experience side. And from that perspective, I think the blockchain industry totally changed. It improved significantly for developers to get involved, to start coding, build their own blockchain applications. So I think that's a really, really good sign, and it will only accelerate from this point on. Can't wait to see what happens in the next 5 to 10 years. And then from an industry or community standpoint, so when I joined, there was not really a big community. It was mainly still on Bitcoin Talk, which was like the Bitcoin forum back in the day, where also Satoshi and many others of the early developers were posting themselves. But then the subreddit drastically improved in terms of user base, and many other projects popped up, creating some kind of side communities next to the Bitcoin community. And I think by now it's basically switched towards not being a Bitcoin community, but being a crypto community. And there I have to say that originally it was a very small community, but extremely high quality. And on average, I would say the quality went down because just so many more people got involved. In the early days, it was just coders, academics, anarchists, and liberals who just really live and fight for decentralization. And now there are many community members just seeking the next big thing in terms of monetary benefits for themselves, trying to just get more money out of this whole thing. So that's why I think the community overall decreased in quality. however, only in relative numbers. In absolute numbers, 100%, there are more talents in the blockchain industry than ever before. It's really astonishing to see what happens on the daily basis in many different crypto communities, like the Ethereum community, to name as I would say, as the standard or the biggest one in terms of development. And then also in Polkadot, Cosmos, in Solana, in Lisk as well. It's just great to see what's happening there. And yeah, they're changed. However, I think on some aspects to the bad, but on many other aspects to the better.
And speaking about the communities, Yuri is also asking, how would the ideal Lisk community look like in your eyes?
I already love you guys, so no problem. The ideal Lisk community, I would say, depending where you look for community. So if you look towards our Discord channel or Discord server, lisk.chat, that's where I would say the ideal community would be mainly consisting of developers who actively work on blockchain applications, and then supporting each other in developing new modules, plugins, and blockchain applications so that our ecosystem of blockchain apps grows. Extremely important for us, number one priority for marketing, business development, for myself, to grow a community of developers. So the ideal community for us definitely has many, many developers in it. Looking at millions and millions of JavaScript developers available out there, I think it's very possible that we will have at one point a very nice and big community of developers. But then I think, for example, one advantage, if you look towards the Apple App Store, is that it also has a huge user base. So next to that, we obviously need also users of these blockchain applications, which are then being built. It's a little bit of a chicken egg problem that if you don't have users, you will not have developers developing something for no users, actually. But on the other side, you cannot get users if you have no use cases. So that's where we really try our best to grow the community on these two pillars at the same time, with the grant program, attracting more developers into our community, but then also with all the other efforts we're doing with, let's say, sponsored articles on various news portals, with our competitions and so on happening on Lisk chat and on Twitter, to just grow the general community. What I think actually is also important, but should be more silent, are all these investors. I think they're very important and a crucial part of our community, giving our network value, and with that more credibility and more visibility to even more people out there. $100 million blockchain network has less visibility than a $1 billion blockchain network. So I think they have their place. Definitely, I like it to see them to put their trust into us as a team, into our code, into the project. But I think from an order, I would definitely say developers first, users second of these blockchain apps and our platform, and last but not least, investors. So to conclude, the ideal community for Lisk would be mainly developers on our Lisk chat Discord server, many users around it somehow involved on Twitter, other social media channels, and the investors just everywhere, being part of it, being interested, being curious, pushing the project on social media channels and so on as well, and being essentially the die-hard users of the platform itself. So I hope to transition them towards using actually the platform and benefiting from it instead of purely investing into it.
Yeah, I think we said also last time in the AMA that attracting developers in general is definitely very hard to do, and everyone is looking for blockchain developers here and there. But I also noticed lately that our developer community increased in size, and that only by the number of messages we see now on Discord. And I think it comes from all the efforts that we started lately, and of course the Hack on Lisk, the online hackathon, and more people joining from DevPost platform to Lisk chat. And I think it's really nice to see people asking even questions if they have problems while developing or just being interested on what's being built. It's definitely nice to see, and I hope we will see it more often. And now also with us being present on dev.to, on Hackernoon, and soon at other platforms, it will definitely help improve.
Yeah, I mean, by being active on these platforms, we definitely have more visibility to the developer community out there. With the Lisk Center, we can definitely attract developers in Berlin, which is, in my opinion, one of the best startup cities in Europe. And yeah, I think Hack on Lisk, our online hackathon, had a major role in attracting more developers to Lisk Chat. So it's definitely not the last one we are going to organize. But also Lisk Jazz as a flagship event this year attracted quite a few views because we did a lot of advertisement before. So I'm sure this also pulled in quite a few developers into our channels, but even more so regular users and investors as well. I think it was a great event.
Another community member asks, why would a developer choose Lisk over other blockchains?
We get that question quite often. It always depends from which perspective you see it. Let's say if you're a developer, like an individual developer, you might wonder, okay, which platform do I choose? And you have the option now between, let's say, Polkadot, Cosmos, and Lisk, because you want to have your own blockchain. You don't just want to develop a smart contract on Ethereum. So you have the choice of these three. And now the first question would be maybe, what's the programming language? Let's say you are familiar with JavaScript only, then your choice would naturally fall onto Lisk because Cosmos is written in Go or Golang and Polkadot is written in Rust. But let's say you're quite a good developer and you can speak or write multiple of these languages. This wouldn't be a big crucial factor for you. Then you look at factors like the documentation. How good is it? And we are putting a lot of effort in there with Mona and Chris working on it on a daily basis. And it's only going to improve from here on. Then you're also looking at the website. What other available materials are there? How's the appearance of the project? Is it something professional or does it look more amateurish? I think here we all are pretty similar in terms of the competition. But then you could maybe check also what is available to support me as maybe an entrepreneur or developer wanting to start a blockchain application. And that's where every and each of these projects have their own programs. At Lisk, you have the Lisk Grant Program, which supports a developer with 60,000 Swiss francs, which is approximately $66,000 in building a blockchain application. And yeah, I think for a developer, you go through that journey, and while being on the journey and discovering each of these communities and projects, maybe giving each SDK a try, checking and reading the rules of the different programs, how they can support you, reading the documentation, checking the website, the materials, how we communicate on social media and so on. This will give you a feeling where you feel home, where you feel good. For me, it was always, I joined always like the crypto communities where I just felt at home somehow. Back in the day, that was first Bitcoin, then Litecoin, NXT, then Crypty. And it's pretty much coming down to your personal experience, I would say. At the end of the day, if you're a developer who can speak many different languages, who doesn't care so much about that, it really boils down to the developer experience you have with the tools, with the documentation, and with the community, which is or will give you support on a daily basis. So that's if you're like an individual person. But now if you're a company, I think we have a major advantage. We are written in JavaScript, and a company has many different developers, and then the probability that a team of these, a subset of these developers are familiar with JavaScript is so much higher than with Rust, for example. And that's where a company, in my opinion, will choose more likely Lisk as a solution because they don't have to rehire an entire team of developers. Or if they have to do that, JavaScript developers are, I guess, cheaper and much easier to find than a Rust developer because they're just more available. So that's a pretty big advantage for businesses, I would say. And there, I don't think that for the C-levels, it actually matters too much if we have a grant program or not. There, I think it's much more simple in terms of, okay, do I have the team which can work with this tool or not? And yeah, I think there we have an advantage then.
Yeah, I think totally. We are working very hard, especially on the developer experience, and right now also trying to make it as accessible as possible, also through visual elements, through tutorials in the future, just to improve that. And I think on the other side, on the C-level, the trust that we offer or we want from people and the transparency that we offer, is definitely helping a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is another factor which you could calculate in. How much trust do you have into the company or project behind? Do you think they're still going to be here in the next 5 to 10 years? Is there like some trouble in the leadership team? Is there movement? Do people stop being in the board of directors or in the management team? So I think there you can make a decision based on that as well. I wanted to add also that this opinion I just stated is, of course, at the current point of time. And I think from here on out, it's going to be a race to the top, a race to the best documentation, a race to the best developer experience, and a race ultimately to the best blockchain applications. And well, we are in it, we're playing it, we're part of it. And I think looking ahead 5 or 10 years, there will be probably a much more obvious choice for a developer to choose. While right now it's still all pretty much the same. There's not much difference between these projects, but I think the difference will grow in the coming years. And we are setting, or we're making sure that we're going to be the difference, that we're going to be the project standing out from the competition in accessibility, in being the industry standard, and just being the obvious choice for developers.
I know that sometimes you like to play around with the tools that we have available with the SDK, and you are also considering the hack on Lisk just to try it. Someone is asking if you would have time to develop a blockchain application right now, what would you like to work on?
So when we started Hack on Lisk, I announced to the team, okay, this is the moment where I can try and play around a little bit with the SDK itself as well. And I've done that. I played around with it. It's a totally different experience when I did it with, the SDK, which we actually had in 2016, which we later then, stopped because it was not a real SDK. You basically just forked the Lisk core code base. It's pleasantly surprised how good it is already, especially with the developer experience improvements in 5.1. And I didn't really build anything because I don't have the time, but I played around quite a bit. But if I would build something right now just for fun, I think it would just be some collectible, something with NFTs, either just some nice game where you can breed some sort of species, or where you can somehow evolve NFTs by doing certain actions. Could be then art, could be an animal, could be whatever. But I think that's pretty interesting to play around with. And that's probably what I would implement now if I would have nothing to do, no problems in my life to think about any idea which has to earn me money or so. If it's just purely fun, I would probably do that. If it would not be fun, but really a business I want to establish, I'd probably just look on our competing platforms like Ethereum and see, okay, which blockchain application is successful there, and replicate that into the Lisk ecosystem. I think right now for developers, it's like an amazing moment to be in the Lisk community, because you can basically cherry pick any successful application from the Ethereum network and port it over to the Lisk network. You can see, okay, oracles work tremendously well in the case, for example, of Chainlink. You can see prediction markets work. NFT marketplaces work really well. Collectibles work. There's so many like examples already given, which just needs to be ported over to Lisk, because we're still at the beginning and building out our ecosystem from scratch right now. And that's where I think if I would be an entrepreneur and developer, I would just check out the statistics, see which apps are the best in terms of activity and potential, and then apply to the grant program with that. And that's what I would build if, of course, my passion lies with one of these.
Yeah, I'm sure we will get some of those blockchain applications through the grant program and the Hack-on List.
I hope so.
Super excited. Yuri is asking, what is your view on low-code blockchains?
I assume, Yuri, you mean low-code or no-code, like what we know from, not 100%, but I think Lego Mindstorms and so on, where you can click together different building blocks, where you have to develop either very little or no, not at all. I think you mean that. And I mean, to be honest, blockchain tech for me is pretty low level. It's like an infrastructure technology. It's also still early days for it. You're not just gonna program like a small robot at home with it. You're going to build mission critical, financially orientated applications. And there, I'm not the biggest fan of low code blockchains. I think it requires a team which can develop, it requires a team which can QA, because if you look at Lisk, that's always the process taking the longest. I think in terms of development, it's super easy to develop a blockchain app with the Lisk SDK. But then you have to QA it, you have to test it, launch it to a beta net, to a test net. And for that, I really would recommend a team with developers, which are actually good developers. Especially if you have your own token, because if you have only LSK in your sidechain and your sidechain fails from a code standpoint, the users can always recover it because we have a recovery mechanism. But if you have your own token, this cannot be recovered back to the Lisk main chain. Only the LSK token can. And that's where your user base could potentially lose millions in funds. So I think this is not to play around with. It has to be taken very seriously. That's why at Lisk, many things take a lot longer, because we just treat it so carefully and with the highest of highest respect. There could be some kind of interfaces, however, where you could generate or pre-generate certain parts of the code or your own white label blockchain without any custom logic added to it. Or there could be some kind of, maybe simple modules defined where you can just click, okay, I want this module, this module, this module. And this could potentially work, but only as a proof of concept, because then if you want to deploy it, I really heavily recommend, again, QA, testing, and so on. It's an interesting idea. I know where it's coming from, because that would increase accessibility like 1,000-fold and would attract even more people into the space to become an entrepreneur and build something. But also looking at just iOS apps or Android apps, there's so much like nonsense on the stores, because it became more easier to develop something, especially with tools like React and React Native. I think in blockchain, we don't need that. We need high quality applications with a long-term view for success and usability and utility, and not just copies and replicas of pre-existing use cases or so. That's my opinion.
You said that we take the time, and of course people want to ask about time frames and which month approximately will the Lisk Core 3.0 be live on Mainnet? Another question.
So just today, Oliver posted an update internally, and I'm sure he will also post an update externally later today, or already happened while we're sitting here. So of course, I'm not going to reveal the mainnet launch date. However, the testnet launch was successful. There are a few issues we have to fix in Lisk Core, which means also in Lisk SDK, in Lisk Service, and Lisk Desktop. And then before mainnet migration can happen, once these fixes and new versions are released, we also need to then prepare the production releases for these different products. That would be Lisk Core 3.0 and not an RC version, but the real 3.0 version. Lisk Desktop 2.0, Lisk Service is already production ready. There we just need the fix release, which is I think a 4.1. 0.4.1, and then Lisk Migrator needs to be released into production and so on. So this all needs to be prepared. We also will have to test the migration of the mainnet internally, where we separate like the node and just try it out if we can like go through the process successfully. So there's still a few things we have to take care of, but the most important thing for now is to fix these issues we have found during the testnet migration in the products. Maybe a quick update. There was 2 issues in Lisk Core, which are already fixed, I think, which will result in a new Lisk Core version. Really edge case scenarios, difficult to spot before, so very good that we did the testnet migration and spotted it. So now the mainnet migration will very likely run smoothless. That was all good, testnet migration successful. But on the Lisk service side, basically the layer between a full node and our Lisk desktop, which is like a wallet for desktop computers, there were a few problems in terms of performance, which caused like Lisk desktop to not really be able to connect to a node and show the latest state of the blockchain. We identified the problems, we're working on them, and we'll release updates soon. But before that happens, I cannot really say anything. But we will reveal the block height of the Lisk mainnet migration in time so that everyone can prepare themselves. We also quite soon will notify exchanges so that they're aware something is coming. So it should not be long anymore. So stay tuned and look on Lisk Chat and our social media channels for updates.
That also answers Shemer's question if the major exchanges already know what changes are coming and required actions. Yeah, that's basically.
Yeah, so we have, well, first of all, we have a MailChimp newsletter list, and we have published several blog posts, like, for example, the one action required for the upcoming mainnet migration. So the exchanges which are keeping themselves informed should be aware of it. But we definitely have to do still a major job in updating them and keeping them informed. And that will now happen step by step. We have to check first if the fixes work and the testnet is then accessible, because else they not be able to fully test their new implementation. But the good exchanges are aware of the upcoming mainnet migration. The smaller ones might not, but there we will make sure to update them in time.
Okay. Another question I would like to ask, if it's possible to implement login to Lisk desktop via Lisk mobile by scanning the QR code.
Is there a QR code on the paper wallet you download? I'm not sure. I think it only shows the address. So theoretically, it's possible because a QR code is just a visualization of a string of text. And this text can be anything. For example, now with COVID-19 in Switzerland, you have a QR code and it reveals like basic information about the person. So that people don't have to type it in on their computer to check if everything is fine, but can just scan the QR code. In our case, well, such a QR code could show the passphrase and then it would insert it automatically into the login field, but that would be like horrible security, because then whoever has like a picture of that QR code also has the passphrase. So that wouldn't be a wise idea. I think we just have to educate people at this moment to type in their passphrases. On mobile, we have the option to enable Face ID, which would keep you logged in. so you don't have to type it in all the time. I think on desktop we should be able to do something similar, that you don't have to type in your passphrase every time you open Lisk desktop. But for now, on the Lisk desktop roadmap, we first wanted to implement all the changes with Lisk Core 3.0 because there were so many of them. So we wanted to focus on that first. But there is already like a little bit of preparation being done for the upcoming features. So stay tuned there for more news. But we're definitely looking into ways how the sign in on desktop and mobile can become even easier. And maybe even where you can like have some kind of systems in place that you never have to type in a passphrase into a user interface of a sidechain, of a blockchain application, because that would also be a very big security issue. There we're really looking into some ways where when you want to sign a transaction on a sidechain, this always leads you back to Lisk desktop or Lisk mobile, and you sign the transactions always only there. There we're currently researching possible ways.
And looking towards the future, Ultra Fresh is asking, what is your vision of a successful Lisk ecosystem a few years from now? And do you expect to see something similar to Ethereum with a robust DeFi ecosystem or something different?
So Lisk SDK 5.1 is out. It's ready for developers. That's why we now have Hack on Lisk out there. We have the grant program, which really incentivizes people for real blockchain applications. Already a few interesting applications came in. So if I look into next year, where well, we hopefully launch like a testnet for interoperability, where we can then already project, okay, it's coming at one point. If I look into that year, I really hope that within our ecosystems, we have a few really, really nice blockchain applications in development. If they have their own token, they can actually launch already before interoperability and later then register the chain and be part of our ecosystem. If they don't have their own token, then they could just create one fake token with no value and port it over later and just use the LSK token then. So this is all possible. So I hope really that by next year we already have quite a few blockchain apps up and running. For me, quality over quantity, 5 to 10 apps would already be a very, very good start. Taking like the most prominent examples from the Ethereum ecosystem. Looking further into the future, I really think that Lisk will have quite a number of blockchain applications with very viable and useful use cases. And if I look into competitors, DeFi is such a great example for blockchain tech, where you don't try to implement like blockchain into some existing process or company or business, but where you just also introduce a paradigm shift what blockchain is. And with that, you basically invent a new industry. And that is what DeFi is. And I think, yeah, on Lisk, the same will happen. DeFi will be pretty big. We will see all kinds of different DeFi blockchain applications. I'm quite sure of that. And really hope that more radically new, like invented industries come up, decentralized whatever. There are quite a few examples, like maybe from insurance or automotive mobility, where we could see some more innovation. But I'm not a big fan of like apps which have like a hybrid use case where they being implemented into an existing centralized app. But rather, I think whole paradigm shifts are more likely. So yeah, 3 to 5 years ahead, I foresee quite a few blockchain applications up and running on the Lisk blockchain application platform. Quite a few of apps which are already existing, just on other platforms that involves DeFi. And I think this will thrive even more in the future. but then also entirely new applications which no one has heard or seen before, either on Lisk first or on other platforms first, and then also being done on the Lisk ecosystem. So yeah, I think the future is going to be amazing.
Yeah, true. Lisk ecosystem future definitely looks nice. And also talking about the future, Empirics is asking if you can give an overview of what the future of the marketing for Lisk looks like to target businesses, developers, and the reach.
So maybe you're the better person to answer that, but for like these target audiences, we mainly have the target audience of a developer and the user, where the developer is our primary target audience, which we focus on the most. And that's where we are working now on new platforms like DevTO, but also working together with other platforms like Hackanoon together to get more news out there in order to attract more developers. That's also where Hack on Lisk plays a role, and the current one will not be the last one. There will be more following. The grant program plays a big role in attracting and incentivizing developers building something on Lisk. And I'm sure like we will have more and more initiatives going forward, especially next year, to attract more developers. And in terms of users, well, we are dealing quite a bit now with sponsored articles. We're working together with Wexman on public relations, doing competitions on Lisk Chat on Twitter, for example, the meme competition, which was quite successful and funny, in order to just attract more people into our community, which might not be developers, but just blockchain enthusiasts or just investors. Then we're sitting here in the Lisk Center Berlin, unfortunately still closed due to COVID-19, but hopefully opening very soon, where developers can just come in. Just sitting here, I'm getting constantly distracted because so many people walking by. They all will know about Lisk because of this. I think Lisk will become very known in Berlin due to this Lisk Center, and then it attracts more users, more investors as well. But then, of course, also developers, because we're going to host like JavaScript, TypeScript meetups here, blockchain meetups. We're doing after events and parties here, for example, when the conferences are coming back, hopefully then next year. So that's another initiative we are doing. Generally just never stop talking about Lisk and just being as active as possible. Looking into next year, really hope that we make very good progress on interoperability so that we see even more applications in development. But I think at one point it's like a domino effect where if like more blockchain applications come onto our platform, maybe not with interoperability yet, but already in development, then more people will get interested also into these apps. And they're like multipliers. So you might be interested in that app, but not into Lisk yet. But by being interested and involved with that app, you will inevitably also get involved with Lisk. And I think with that, it's just going to explode. And then like people will build their own apps, people will play around and use these apps. So I think that will be really great to see. That's why a big focus is on just getting more applications into our ecosystem, because that's like really an exploding factor in growing our community. Hopefully next year also some conferences back on the table. Really would love to go and attend them again. For this year, there's still a few lined up. Hopefully we will make it. There's Token 2049, 2 still planned, like one in London and one in Hong Kong. So let's see if that will happen. As far as I can see it, it will be possible. And then, next year, hopefully then from the beginning, again, the usual row of conferences for us. And they're a healthy mix of blockchain and developer conferences. So that's roughly a bit of next marketing campaigns. You mentioned businesses as well. We are attracting businesses hopefully with the grant program. And I don't mean Google and Apple. I mean new businesses where an entrepreneur and developer come together to build on Lisk. I have this theory that blockchain is such a big change, such a paradigm shift. You cannot just take an existing business and implement somehow blockchain into it. You really have to develop and invent a new business and a new business model. And that's where I really don't see a big reason to work together with established businesses and trying to educate them on blockchain for free, because they always want that, but then also helping them with the implementation where we maybe have to provide 1 or 2 developer resources. And then 2 years later, hopefully having a blockchain app, but maybe also not. Maybe it's just something internal then, or they just stop it completely. And for that, I think it's then a lot of time wasted. So I really focus on new startups, really getting 100% involved with blockchain from the get-go, instead of convincing established businesses to do something with blockchain. And yeah, big enterprises, I don't see at all, just for experiments and proof of concepts. But that's where we just built the SDK as a general purpose tool for everyone to use, so they can always use it nonetheless. Looking at the download numbers, some people definitely use it, and more than we are aware of who they are. So that's a good sign. But yeah, a few words about that as well.
Yeah, I think for the, let's say, startups or those businesses that you were talking about, the grant program is the best option. And by the end of this month, we will finish or be at the end of the first wave of our Lisk grant program, and already excited. We saw several really good applications, and that's also what we will keep on doing with the next waves. And then, of course, for Lisk.js 2022, we will reevaluate and keep on doing it because, as you said, it's quality over quantity. So we really want to get the best apps from that. Yeah. And that's someone from the chat said a really nice comment: quality over quantity. You guys do it correct. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I think currently we're very well positioned in terms of marketing. We constantly push out news articles on various news portals. We push out many blog posts, keeping everyone informed. We're attracting developers with Hack on Lisk, with the grant program, with Lisk.js, which just happened. There will be an event already coming quite soon if I look on the calendar, and at the end of the year. Lisk updates, maybe to be renamed, let's see. But yeah, I think there's so much done correctly right now. It's a bit fine-tuning, and then always depending on the current situation we're in, changing it. The situation is hard to foresee when we are in it. So I think that's where we can make an end-of-year strategy then for the next year, but we always have to remain agile and adapt our strategies towards just the situation we are in. And I think next year will be one of the most interesting years for this, because I think interoperability will make a big step forward.
Yeah, and speaking about interoperability, another question is Lisk working together with other interoperability projects like Pantos multi-blockchain token system?
Is that the question?
Yes,
if we work?
That's...
Okay. So Pantos was a research project initiated by our friends Paul and Eric from Bitpanda, and we were giving them initial support. They worked together with a university in Vienna, if I remember correctly, and we supported them, had some advice, and tried to push that effort a bit forward, also with some promotion from our side, and lending them our name. I think it was a very good effort on the research side. I don't know where it stands today, so we actively don't work together with them at the current time, or never did also on our interoperability solution. This was 100% researched by our research team, and reviewed also, and probably also improved in some aspects by our development team, by Oliver and myself. So there they didn't have a role. I'm not sure what the status is there, but I wish them all the best, and I hope that they can continue to push innovation into the direction of interoperability. I think it's an area which still needs to innovate quite a bit. We just announced our solution, but that's by no means the end of it. We already revealed 3 new objectives at Lisk.js to improve that solution even further, with a more general fee system or with the relayer incentivization. I think we already have a few objectives which are very interesting in that regard. If we're talking about other projects, like let's say interoperability to Polkadot, to Ethereum, to Bitcoin, to Cardano, to Cosmos, then it's on our roadmap that we want to implement interoperability to such projects as well. It's part of the diamond phase, the last phase, where we expand basically, before Sapphire, we're currently in the end steps of Emerald, where we improve the protocol and where you can build an isolated blockchain. And then Sapphire, which is part of the interoperability phase, you can connect your own blockchain then to the Lisk blockchain and become part of the Lisk ecosystem. And then in the last phase, Diamond, you can expand then also to third-party blockchains. And that's, I'm not sure how we're going to do that, because it's the last phase. We're not in that phase yet. Research-wise, we're still in Sapphire, development-wise in Emerald, even though a bit of interoperability implementation has already begun. We've implemented 2 LIPs already. But we have to see if there will be some kind of partnership or collaboration with these projects, or if we just do it ourselves. I don't know yet. This has to be checked, but I guess it will not be too tricky to do either of them if the other party is interested. So we really have to see how we're going to do it. I'm not sure at this point.
Anonymove is asking, will you vote from your private account in the new depots?
No. I will not vote with my, I think, 3.3 million Lisk still available. As far as I'm aware, Oliver also has no plans of voting with his account, which still has the original 4 million Lisk. We might vote with one of the foundation accounts to enable a delegate for the foundation. We might do that, to be involved with the Lisk network ourselves, and have always like one full node and delegate spot in it, which gives us skin in the game, but also just is very good to ensure that we are running through the full node user experience as well and see how it is, to be able to also improve that. And with our German blockchain studio, Lightcurve, we might do that as well, to run a delegate. We don't know. We are a major, player in the Lisk ecosystem, of course. So I really hope that going forward, delegates will not just be individuals, but companies supporting or providing services to the Lisk ecosystem. That might be, for example, a blockchain application. It might be a team of developers just working on plugins or modules or explorers or whatever. So I really think that it would be quite beneficial for us if the delegates going forward are such projects or bigger staking pools, which spreads then the forging rewards to a large number of people. So yeah, let's see. But I will not vote, and Oliver will likely also not vote. At least that's the current plan, and we're quite strict with these plans.
Okay. About the token price, it was said that Lisk does not focus too much on token price. Can you explain why this is, and wouldn't the higher token price benefit the Lisk ecosystem?
Yeah, I mentioned before that a higher price definitely benefits us, because a 100 million project is less interesting than a $1 billion project. My hands are tied in some regards that I can't talk too much about token price, work together with exchanges, investors, market makers, whatever, to somehow support the markets. It's not possible. We are a Lisk Foundation, a non-profit entity with the purpose of supporting the technological aspect of Lisk and in general blockchain tech. We are not there to pump the prices or to support the markets. That's just something we legally cannot do. However, we're trying our best to build confidence into our ecosystem. And with that, we have introduced a Lisk buyback program where we are lending away 15.2 million USDC on BlockFi, which earns us a little bit over 100,000 USDC per month. At least currently, they can change the rates. And with that, we are buying back LSK tokens to be used then for developers to incentivize them building blockchain applications. And we're buying them back, not in one go to pump it up. We buy them back every single day. I think every hour, actually. Every hour we buy a small chunk. So at the end of the month, there's this 100K USDC. We're doing that with our long-standing contractor, Bitcoin Swiss, great company, great team there. So it's a really easy process for us. And then I heard people, yeah, but that doesn't matter. So I think it does matter quite a bit because, first of all, we're not going to distribute these LSKs as LSK tokens immediately to the development teams. They have to reach certain milestones before they can get the funding. And the first milestone is 1,000 Swiss francs. And the second one is also just a few thousand Swiss francs. It's not directly 60,000 Swiss francs in LSK tokens. So this will certainly have some effect in supporting the markets in some way, but that's not our intention. Our intention is to slowly accumulate LSK tokens in order to support developers building blockchain apps. But we're trying the best in doing what we can do without doing illegal stuff, but also without risking anything. But nonetheless, it would be ignorant to say that we don't do anything in terms of supporting the price of LSK tokens. We're doing an amazing job in research, an amazing job in development. We are still consistently ranked as one of the most actively developed blockchain projects in the industry. Looking at our progress made, I'm not talking pre-2018, I'm talking about 2018, second half, 2019, 2020, 2021. It's been a different world. We have implemented so many changes already and continue to do so. We're communicating quite a bit with the marketing team. So we're building all this value, and price always follows value. Not immediately, but after some time. So I'm highly confident that Lisk will be very successful going forward from an adoption standpoint, from a utility standpoint. And if you understand token economics, then there will be like a supply and demand rule in check. And I think we will have a bright future for the blockchain application platform.
You were talking about the buybacks and the amounts that we buy on a daily basis. A community member is asking if Lisk plans to increase the amount of Lisk buybacks.
So we are currently putting all in whatever we get on BlockFi. Besides, on the first month, we got 38,000 or something, or 39,000 USDC. From that, we only used like 10 or 11,000 USDC to buy back LSK, so quite a small number, because I wanted a round number of USDC on BlockFi. Before it was like 15.1 something million. Now it's clean and cut 15.2 million. And the last month, it was a little bit over 100,000 USDC. And these we're using completely. Already sent to Bitcoin Swiss. They're buying, I think, every hour for the next, I think, which date do we have? For the next like 20 days, LSK tokens. Increasing it is not very possible right now, and unless BlockFi would increase the return. But I think they actually decreased it recently, so that's not a given. However, going forward, it might be possible that we are putting more money on BlockFi. Currently, the amount of money is 2 years of spendings, of expenditures, so that we always have 1 year in cash and 2 years in USDC. And that 2 years we are lending away to purchase LSK from the market. And this is the rule right now. But maybe be changed in the future, I'm not sure.
You said before about your ideas for blockchain applications. Now someone is asking, in your opinion, what are some of the ideas and problems that developers should focus on tackling?
In terms of use cases or in terms of technology?
I think both. Ideas probably means use cases and problems as technology.
So I think as a developer in terms of technology, you should focus on, we should focus first on accessibility and making the SDK easier to use. But you should probably, in the context of Lisk, focus on providing the developer ecosystem more plugins, more modules to be reused. The major benefit of JavaScript is that there's a wide registry of libraries available, for example, on NPM, to be reused. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. And in Lisk, we can make use of that benefit. And that's where you as a developer can just build plugin after plugin, module after module to help every other developer in our ecosystem to not need to reinvent the wheel. And that's where you can tackle quite a few interesting challenges, like you could implement, let's say, some anonymity features like Monero has or Zcash has into the Lisk SDK then, so that everyone else building a sidechain can just reuse that. You could come up with new consensus algorithms, playing around with them. If you're a university, you can do active research on that, but in a much easier way than building everything from scratch. So these are very technological challenges I think people can solve. A little bit more higher level, I would say there are also many like tools people can still build to make just development more easy or to access our ecosystem more easy. For example, just recently there were 2 blockchain explorers developed by our community, which are already like super nice and heavily in use by me at least, Lisk Observer and Lisk Scan. Then there are more pages coming from community members aggregating various news or information about the Lisk platform. So all of these things can also be done to make being part of Lisk as pleasant as possible as a user or as a developer. For a developer, maybe you could look into plugins for IDEs to make it easier there as well. You can also write plugins for Lisk Commander, or as part of your blockchain app, a plugin for your blockchain application. So there's so much you can do on a technological standpoint. On like a usability or utility standpoint, you can, just like I said before, cherry pick the most interesting and beneficial applications on Ethereum, for example. You could see, okay, NFTs are great, so let me build an NFT marketplace. Collectibles are super cute or interesting to play with. Let's build a collectible game. A prediction market would be good to have to bet on outcomes going forward in the future, either within the Lisk ecosystem or maybe today there's a football game, maybe in that regard. Then you can build Oracle systems. So all these still relatively, I would say, basic blockchain applications are very beneficial to have, and it would be still a challenge to build them, but so much easier than how it was like a few years ago. So I think that's also a very interesting issue to tackle in terms of utility, bringing this utility to the blockchain application platform, which Lisk is.
And how would you rate Lisk in comparison to Ethereum, for example, in terms of transactions per second?
Ethereum has, we announced it at Lisk.js and in a blog post afterwards, I think currently like 19 transactions per second. With the upcoming Lisk code 3.0, it really depends on which kind of transaction you're sending because they have a different size. We can support, I think, 12.5. However, that's with Lisk code 3.0. We could increase that number by 6 easily because that's what we tested successfully and that works. But we kept it smaller on Lisk core, which is the mainnet, in order to not have more than 50 gigabyte growth per year maximum, because with the new fee system, sending transactions becomes insanely cheap, and spam would then become possible as well. So we at least want to limit in the beginning the number or the size how the blockchain can grow each year. But as a developer, you can easily build a blockchain application then with 6 times 12.5 transactions per second, so around 75 transactions per second, which results in over 6 million transactions per day. And that's then quite significantly more than Ethereum and much, much more than Bitcoin can support. But we have to keep in mind that on Ethereum, you have thousands and actually millions of smart contracts registered and thousands in use. And on Lisk, on each sidechain, there will be one app being implemented. So it will be much more fragmented in terms of usage. And that means if you have, let's say, 1,000 sidechains and the main chain, you will have like 1,001 times that scalability I was talking before. So either between 12.5 transactions per second and 75 transactions per second. And that's like into the thousands. But nonetheless, we are doing more improvements to our code base. I think going forward, maybe not with the SDK 6.0, but maybe with the version after that or in future versions, scalability will still increase if we see that's a problem. And then we will go to a great degree of ramping that effort up. But so far, I think that will not be a problem.
What do you think about Polkadot?
I like them. It's super funny to see that all major interoperability projects have their office in Berlin and in Zug. Polkadot has the team in Berlin sitting. Cosmos has the team in Berlin sitting, and Lisk as well. With team, I mean the developers, the marketeers contracted out to a new entity. And I have been meeting them all already. They're all great guys and girls. Really like it. A lot of fun to hang out with them. And I hope that we can have more collaboration going forward because we are essentially all tackling the same problem. So I don't see why we should not collaborate. From a technical standpoint, for me, it's too complicated. Just understanding it requires already significant work, and then programming with it requires even more intense onboarding. I think the whole onboarding experience is significantly more difficult than with Lisk, not only because of Rust and it has still a relatively small developer user base. It's rapidly growing. That's not the problem. Just the software is really complex. Feels like they never really thought about accessibility, but more about just having cool features and a very cool system in place. But also from the platform thought, there's not too much work being done yet in terms of wallets and so on, but I see the community building out quite a bit in that regard. So that's something we definitely can learn from having more community efforts, building more websites like explorers, more aggregators, building more blockchain applications and so on. So that's where definitely they have like a first mover advantage. But overall, I like them. I hope we can work together with them somehow in the future on building a more interoperable blockchain industry. But I think they are a tad too complicated for the majority of developers out there to be used.
Hope to see the team at Polkadot coming and visiting us here in the Lisk Center in Berlin.
Yeah, and I hope that they're going to organize some meetups here. We are free to host them, like we're open to host them. Would love to have them here. I have a few friends at Polkadot, so really would love to see you guys all here in the Lisk Center Berlin and work together with us on the future of blockchain interoperability.
We talked before about the long-term vision of Lisk and in general what we plan for next year, but someone is asking, I would like to know what the plans for Lisk are for the short term, so within the next 6 months until the end of the year.
Mainnet launch, interoperability implementation, not towards the end, but working on the libs one by one. Complete epic specification of all the libs means all the issues are created on GitHub already, but then working on the epics one by one. We already implemented 2, so it's going really good. But there are quite a number of more libs still open, of course. So that's going to continue. hope to see some significant progress made by the end of the year. Then one more marketing event, which will be hosted from the Lisk Center Berlin as far as things stand. Last year it was called Lisk Updates. Let's see how we call it this year, but that will happen, giving you like an end of year overview of what happened in the Lisk ecosystem. I hope several more blockchain applications being developed. We already saw like a handful of applicants in the grant program coming in, but I hope we can increase that number and then also publicly announce the first and second wave, where then we can put these amazing projects on our website, advertise them, help them, support them, and yeah, pushing the words out there into the blockchain industry about them. And then yeah, hopefully they might launch some testnets already or get some feedback from the community about their apps, actively promote their apps, and really building a vibrant Lisk community. Yeah, more AMAs. The next one will not happen in this constellation. The next one I will do just by myself in front of the screen. Maybe again, Miguel in the background supporting me with the questions. What else do we have planned for this year? Further releases on Lisk Desktop and Lisk Service, pushing more the boundaries of user experience in the blockchain world. This time really also implementing new features and doing these improvements on user experience. Because like I said before, we were working mostly on the support of Lisk 3.0.0. Another hack on Lisk maybe. Yeah, big marketing campaigns, just getting more. I think that's the most important one, just getting more applications rolling with the Lisk grant program, attracting more developers into our ecosystem.
Yeah,
maybe you have some things to add.
Yeah, I think you said most of the things we are planning also from marketing side this year. Hopefully the Center Berlin will host developer events or meetups, ours and also external ones, of course, increasing the awareness through developers, also in different platforms. So we are researching potentially new platforms where we can basically showcase the Lisk SDK and the other apps that we'll build. So yeah, I think definitely developer focused activities from marketing point of view.
Yeah, and I go to conferences at least. Yeah, there are many things planned, but for me the most or the nicest thing about Lisk is we're established. So it's not hectic. It's not like left and right every week a new strategy, whatever pops up. We're going our course. We're working on the things which have to be implemented. We're promoting them. We're communicating them. We're doing all of that. It's very nicely organized, arranged, everything. All processes are well defined. Maybe a little bit about my YouTube channel. For the last 2 months, it was more inactive there. But I plan to restart that again and get some more videos out there in the coming months to really push more onto also my personal persona, establishing myself more in the industry and the community as like the person who can answer all the questions. Yeah, I really like where we stand right now with the project. It feels really mature and professional. If I contrast it to 2016-17, we're a whole different team, a whole different project right now, and it's really feeling very good. And I can't wait for the next years.
As a new developer to blockchain technology, what are the incentives for developers for working full-time for Lisk?
I mean, if you want to build a blockchain application, become an entrepreneur and developer, make use of that, benefit from it. And I think, like I said before, it's like such a unique, amazing opportunity to get involved now, because you literally just have to cherry pick blockchain applications and build them, make them happen. You get 60,000 Swiss francs from us. I mean, it cannot get easier than that. If you're a student, just stop studying and apply with a great idea and build a blockchain app and make yourself an entrepreneur. I think nothing better can happen than that. And if it doesn't work out, half a year, 1 year later, you just resume studying, but in your early days, you have the opportunity to take some risk. So yeah, the whole incentive is to become successful, to make something out of yourself, but also to build something for the world, to make an impact, to be a pioneer in a new technology. Still early days. We still have no mainstream adoption by far. No one understands anything. If I look towards the more non-technical crowd. So yeah, a lot of opportunities still there, and the incentive is just that: becoming successful, making an impact, and building something you're passionate about.
Someone is asking a tricky question. Why should one invest in Lisk?
So you should invest your time in Lisk because we're building something at the forefront of technology. We're building something as pioneers. We're making blockchain development accessible and trying to establish the Lisk SDK as the go-to choice for JavaScript blockchain developers. And with that, well, it just is a truly unique moment to get involved, to spend time on the Lisk project, either as a community member trying to grow it from that perspective, or as a developer trying to add something to it from a technological standpoint. So I think it's just a very good moment to get involved. When I started 2012, I got involved into the Litecoin community first because Bitcoin was kind of feeling too big to me, like scary. So I built a Litecoin miner. But nowadays, you don't have to invest money into a project to get involved. With Lisk, you can just start for free. You can download the SDK and start building, which keeps you in it. And then I joined the NXT community as a community manager, worked on the website, went to conferences, kept everyone up to date about development progress, and so on and so forth. And it was such a tremendous learning experience for me, which culminated in me founding Lisk. And I think that's why you should invest your effort, your passion, your time into a project like Lisk, because it will just benefit you personally, your personal growth, your personal potential for the future. So yeah, that's why I think people should invest time into Lisk.
Cool. We have one last question. Someone really wants to know if we have a dog in the Lightcurve office.
Not anymore. We had one back in the day, Lexi.
Yes.
Lexi, the dog was called, but not anymore since I think 2 years now, nearly 1.5 years. And so far, no new dog. The thing is, it's a bit distracting to have an animal in the dog, but on the other side, studies show very many benefits in having that. But then it has to be a small dog and not a huge dog. So yeah, we have many different opinions here. We're all laughing. But yeah, there's no dog and also no cat, no tortoise, no snake, nothing right now, no fish in the office right now. We're doing our best to keep the plants alive, and that's already a challenge. So let's stick to that for the time being.
Cool. One nice comment for you, Max. Someone says, I like your confidence. Keep it up like this, and Lisk will be #1 in the scene.
Yes, I agree. Let's always keep up confidence, chin up, breast out, and walk through the world with greatest confidence. I think it's very important to have that building a startup, because I get death threats, I get hate messages every day. And it's not stopping me. I'm here after nearly 6 years, day in, day out, building Lisk. Yes, I do a weekend trip to Rome, do some holidays, spend some nice time with my girlfriend. But it's not stopping my motivation. It's not hindering the efforts. I'm more motivated than ever before because we're so close before fulfilling our promise of the ICO, delivering blockchain interoperability. And that's only the start. All of this 6 year, 7 year, whatever it's going to be, journey was just to start with the blockchain application platform. And then that's where the real job begins. That's why I have to build out my persona. That's why I have to start a YouTube channel. That's why we're doing more marketing now to really make Lisk as attractive as possible in attracting developers and the user base so that we can really thrive as the #1 blockchain application platform out there. And I think going forward with interoperability to other projects as well, it will not really feel like Lisk is the platform. It just will be like apps built on blockchain tech. But I think really what I'm working towards is of knowing that many people using blockchain apps, these were actually then built on Lisk. And that's amazing. I said in an interview, I think in 2017, what I want to see is someone walking on the street with a phone in the hand using the Lisk wallet. By now it changed a little bit. I want to see people benefiting from blockchain tech, which was actually built with the Lisk SDK. So we were the enabler in building a new world where blockchain tech really can benefit humanity. So we're in the office every day to make that a reality, and it feels great.
Yeah, I think we are on the right path for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Thank you very much for answering the questions, and thank you everyone for asking the questions in the chat. And yeah, that's it for this month. And for next month, Max is also going to host it on YouTube. We got really good feedback from your side, so we will keep this format. Yeah, thanks a lot for joining.
Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Was as always a great experience. Was a bit distracted with the street, but that just is a positive for the Lisk Center because everyone watches in and looks, what is this amazing space here? Hope to be back in 1 month, this time then with a different format where it will be just me in front of the camera, but I will make sure to take the nice camera with me. I'm going to be traveling. That's why I'm not going to be able to be here in the Lisk Center Berlin for that time, but we'll make sure to be there for you again with another Ask Max Anything. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.